I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
Good morning, guys. Happy Friday. This morning, we're talking about the power of speaking up. So, it's important to understand the power of your voice, and not only your voice, but just your thoughts in general. So, there are more than one way. There is more than one way of speaking up, you know. Um, but overall, it's about getting comfortable with voicing how you feel. And whatever way that works for you in the beginning, that's something that you should focus on. So if you are a writer rather than a vocalizer, that's fine. Or if you like to be more vocal than you do writing, then that's cool. Whatever works for you, whichever angle you have to do it from, that's okay. As long as you understand the power of what you have to say, the power behind it. Um, So when something hurts you or makes you feel negative, it's important to speak up on that. Don't allow yourself to be uncomfortable. And I say allow because when that's exactly what you do when you don't say something. When something doesn't feel right to you or something feels off to you or something just doesn't feel comfortable, you have to say something about it. I understand it may be uncomfortable just to even think about doing something like that because if you're a person who's used to silencing yourself or just being quiet for most of the scenarios that happen, then it is going to feel a bit awkward. It is going to feel very uncomfortable at first because you're not used to doing it. It's something new for you. It's something fresh. um, and that's something that we really have to take into consideration. You don't want to do things that make you feel uncomfortable. You don't want to be around things that make you feel uncomfortable unnecessarily. So learn to speak up for yourself in regards to your life, your work area, wherever you work, who you work with, um, and relationships, of course, for sure. So that's where speaking up can help you the most with overall life in general and your work and relationships, okay? So standing up for yourself in small ways helps you to learn to stand up for yourself in even bigger ways. So that's why I said it's good to start off small. You don't have to do anything too major right away, because you want to make sure that you're starting off with smaller steps so that you can build a level of comfort and confidence in what you're doing, because the more confident you are, the easier it is to speak up, the easier it is to get this done. And you feel good about it. You don't feel bad anymore after a while because you start to understand, okay, this is you taking your power back, and this is you showing self-love, it's you showing, respect for yourself, and you're helping other people to respect you too. Little do you know. So understand that our voices and our opinions matter. I get that sometimes other people may make you feel like they don't, but they do. It really depends on what kind of upbringing you've had, or, maybe you've been in tune with social media in a certain way and you only feel like people of certain status, their voices matter and yours don't, things like that. Like the world makes us feel all kinds of different things that we should not feel. Let's just be honest with each other. So I definitely understand why you would feel like maybe it doesn't matter. Like I said, either you've been told that by someone or shown that time and time again through actions, and you've gained that assumption. But understand it's just that, an assumption. It's not factual, because in fact your voice does matter, your opinion does matter. um but you have to ask yourself the question, do you let things go that really bother you, or do you agree to things that you don't want to do? If you do, then that's a problem. That isn't a major issue, because you shouldn't let things go that bother you. If something bothers you, that's your body's way of letting you know, hey, this isn't okay. We should do something about it. Speak up on it or something. And especially if it's something you don't want to do, you definitely have to put that out there, because that leaves you for dangerous situations. And Little do you know, your gut has a way of saving you. I talked about anxiety the other day in a positive light, and this is what I'm talking about. When you get anxious and your body tells you that something that someone has done or a situation that has occurred makes you uncomfortable, that is anxiety trying to protect you. It's letting you know, okay, this is not a safe situation to be dealing with. You need to get away from it. You need to do something about it. You need to do something different. Something has to happen. Some sort of change has to happen right now because this is not a good situation.
I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
So that's why I said don't look at anxiety as such a curse, because in those situations they save your life the most. Those anxious moments save your life, because if you never had anxiety to let you know when the situation doesn't feel right, you'd be doing everything dangerous known to man. You know what I mean? So look at that as a way of your body having a defense mechanism, and it's good that we do have that, so that we know what to do and what not to do. So that we know who to talk to, who not to talk to, and what to engage in and what not to engage in terms of what we want to do and what we don't want to do, and what makes us feel comfortable versus what makes us feel uncomfortable. So you get the gist of that, you know. And one concept, this is a concept that I know a lot of people struggle with, and I do too. If you want something, ask for it. Why do we find it so hard to ask for something when we want it? Have you ever thought about that? Why do we find it so hard to ask for something when we need it? Like if you need help, why don't you ask for the help? Or if you want something from someone, and I know it, that's what I'm saying, like society makes it seem like such a bad thing. Oh, you want things from people? That's selfish. Like, wait, what? We're human. We're supposed to want things from each other. That's what we're here to do, help each other to build. So there's nothing wrong with asking for something. It's all in how you ask. It's not what you say, but how you say it, you know? So if you're asking with a very nasty attitude, then of course it's going to come off the wrong way. But if you're asking in a polite way, all right, let's see if I can give you an example. All right, so let's say you have a friend. All right, so okay, I'll use City as an example because this is a clear one, because this is this is real. So you see that shirt he's wearing, right? We so fly. So I'm like, City, I really like that shirt. Can I have one of those? I really want a shirt like that. You know what I mean? Okay, nothing wrong with asking. I like the shirt. I want a shirt, right? Why can't I ask for the shirt? And then he might in tune say, well, Jamie, you know what? I could have that for you today. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, thank you, City. And then I'll have a We So Fly morning shirt. Dang, there you go. But I would never get the shirt if I never asked. You get what I mean? Or I could be like, you know what, City? I'm going to take that shirt from you because that's my shirt. I need that. I want that. That's mine. That's not yours. You think he going to give it to me? No. Come on. Attitude is everything. Energy is everything. Don't be mean about it. Be nice about it. Ask, and maybe you shall receive. I'm not going to say that everybody's going to give you what you want simply because you ask for it, but there's no harm in asking for it. It's all in how you ask, and it's all about the energy behind it. And if you have good intentions or not, you know what I mean? So don't be afraid to ask for something. If you like something, or you want to know more about something, or whatever you want, just see what happens. Just ask. And if you get turned down or whatever the case may be, that's cool. It's whatever. Just keep going and just keep asking different people and in different scenarios. Just never stop, or never suppress what you really want, or never suppress how you really feel because of fear of being judged, or the stereotypical standard of what you can do versus what you can't do. Like society tells you don't ask because that looks selfish, or maybe your parents, I know my parents told me don't ask for anything, because it's just not polite. But I don't see how that's not polite if you ask in a nice way. So yeah. But I get the concept of it. But yes, if you want something, learn to ask for it. So if you're ever going to get what you need in this world, you have to understand that you're going to have to ask for it, because people are not going to be able to read your mind. Okay, People do not have this spontaneous ability to just assume that you want certain things or to know what you want at all. Even if they've known you for years, they still don't know what you want. You can't expect other people to just automatically give you exactly what you wanted or what you need if you never stated what that is. It's not fair to try to act like people are mind readers. We're human beings, so we have to be told things. We can't just assume you know and it's not good to assume anyways. I think it's better to ask than to ever assume anything, because that way at least you'll know the truth. At least you'll have a better understanding of what's going on versus what you assume to be. Because most of the time that's not real anyways. It's just like I said, our perception is not always reality. It may feel like it, but it's not. you know that's why it's good to ask and figure things out and find out the real deal. So, like I said, be clear and be specific. Don't feel guilty for asking. You're allowed to want things in life. That's human. You're allowed to want, and you're allowed to ask for what you want. You know, but just don't be greedy with that. That there's a huge difference. Do not be greedy with it. Is one thing to be reasonable with it and have a balance to how much you ask for and what you ask for. Don't go around asking for anything and everything. But ask within reason, just like you would do anything else. You'll be able to determine when it's appropriate versus when it's not appropriate. Let's just have a certain level of etiquette about ourselves. I'm not saying go and ask for every single thing in sight. No. But if something calls to you or something speaks to you and it feels right, hey, go ahead and ask about it or ask for it or whatever the case may be.
I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
So the only time this may appear to be inappropriate, like I said, is if you're making demands or you're using, and that's another thing, if you're using it as a way to guilt people, to manipulate anybody into getting, what you want from them. That too. Don't use that as a tactic against people. Don't make demands. Don't demand anything of anyone. Like I said, I given you that example where I asked nicely and then I was almost demanding in the second instance. The first instance he would have been like, of course, but then the second one, it's like, oh no, who are you talking to? I'm not giving you anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's instant no from then on. You know what I mean? Because of the presentation is everything. Always keep that in mind. The way you present yourself to people is how they perceive you to be. So you have to really take that into consideration with everything that you do, because it's not, like I said, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, you know. And then another one is to stop over apologizing. There's such a thing as over apologizing. And that's a common problem, because when you're fearful of speaking up and being open about your emotions, you feel like you have to apologize for it. So stop apologizing for being human and being a human with needs at that. Don't apologize for asking for something and for saying no to something. If things make you feel a way and they don't make you feel comfortable, why are you apologizing? If anything, the person that, if they are aware of this, they should be apologizing to you because they know that it makes you uncomfortable. Now, if they don't know, then that's different. If you've never told them and they don't feel your discomfort and they can't tell that you're uncomfortable, then that's a whole different thing. Maybe they just think that's how your personality is. You can't assume that they know. So it's always good to vocalize it. You know what I mean? So always cue people into your mind. You have to understand that life is all about us communicating with each other. That's simply what our foundation is. We talk all day long through social media. We talk in every aspect of our lives. We talk nonstop. I think we talk about 24 hours a day if we can. You know what I mean? Like, that's all we do is talk, because we're always trying to learn about each other. We're trying to share different things about each other. And we're just trying to progress as a community overall. So there should be no shame in communication if that's literally how the world works. The world is run based off of communication skills, hence the word social media. You know what I mean? How do you think media is based on? They studied different forms of communication. They put them together on different platforms. They study the features. They determine what should work, what shouldn't work. You know what I mean? Like they study us down to the T based off of how we communicate. So why are we ashamed of talking when that's literally what we're supposed to be doing? So when something doesn't feel good, it's the same concept. You know what I mean? Like if somebody tells me something, like they say, oh my gosh, I don't think you're the smartest person. I think you could be so much smarter. You seem kind of dumb sometimes. If I sit there and be like, oh wow, I never thought of that like that, and I don't say anything, they're just gonna do that next time. They're gonna tell me something even worse next time. It's gonna go from dumb to stupid to retard, whatever, excuse my language, but people are very, very vocal these days. So if I allow that, it's the insults are only going to get worse, because then they assume, oh wow, I could talk to her if I want to talk to her. She doesn't mind. She's comfortable with it. That's going to be our dynamic. No sir, no ma'am, it's not, because then Jamie's going to say I am not stupid. Actually, I'm very intelligent. I don't know what's up with you. But, you need to look into that, and you need to be more careful with how you speak to people, because it's not cool and it does not feel good, and that's not polite. You know what I mean? To put it nicely for the show, but I'd have some strongly worded things to say. It's just, I'm trying to give you the appropriate way to respond. Give them self reflection. Tell them to reflect on themselves and be more careful with the words that they say, because you never know what somebody's going through. And you saying a certain word or a certain phrasing could really send somebody over the edge and really hurt their self esteem. That's the most appropriate way to, respond to that. But we all know we're human, and I'm pretty sure you can imagine what I would actually say. But yeah, so, just for the sake of positivity, that's exactly how you should respond, okay?
I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
But no, seriously though, no, I would do that. I don't really, I try not to go the other route to get off the high horse. I try to stay on the high horse as much as I can. That was a joke. But no, seriously, I would respond like that. I would try to help them to understand, hey, that's not okay. I don't appreciate that. That made me feel very bad. Like, come on. Let's be better than that. Respect me, I respect you. It's that simple. So yeah. But so yeah, you just have to stop apologizing for being who you are, and saying how you feel. As long as you're doing it, like I said, with respect, and you have good intentions, and it's to better yourself, and it's to assert yourself, there's nothing wrong with it. That's not a bad thing. Now if you're speaking up, like I said, to make fun of people, to put others down, to belittle someone, then that, of course, that's different. Then yeah, you should apologize for that, because you're not doing it with a good heart or a good mind. You're doing it just to be spiteful, or you're doing it to have some type of bully mentality behind it. Like, no, that's not good. But if something is simply hurting you, there's no harm in saying that. you know so if you think you inconvenience people, by stating how you feel, that's a problem. You have to figure out why you feel like it's an inconvenience to someone else to hear how you feel. Why don't you think that there's enough time in the day to hear how you feel? Why don't you think that those moments of you expressing that are valuable, just like all the other moments in the day? You listen to them, right? You've listened to them talk, you've listened to them, you've seen them do different things and all that. You've been there. You didn't say anything. Even if you didn't feel like it, you still listened. So why don't you think that they'll do the same for you? And if they don't do the same for you, then that's a different story. Trial and error. That's the only way you'll know. If they do decide to cut you off in the midst of you expressing yourself, then well, you know what type of person you're dealing with. But you'll never know until you put it out there. And then you can figure out what you have to do next, which is establish boundaries and really figure out if that dynamic is healthy or not. Then it gets a bit deeper. And I get that's what we dread the most. We're like, oh God, then I have to put boundaries down. If I express this one thing, even though you've been doing this one thing to me for years or whatever, and if I express that I don't like it now, then the boundaries come into play, and then things are gonna get awkward, and then you're not gonna want to talk to me anymore. And it's like, oh my gosh, okay. If they don't want to talk to you anymore, then you know where you stand. And I know that that is it hurts. Yes, it does not feel good because you don't want that to be the result, but you have no control over how other people feel. You have no control how other people respond. You know what I mean? Only you can control you. That's your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to make them respond in a good way or to help them to respond to you the way you'd like them to. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not within your power. That's out of your power. That's out of your control. That is not something you should be worrying about, you know? Good morning, good morning. So understand that it's okay to do that. And then we had discussed how to say no before. So of course, speaking up includes saying no at times, declining certain opportunities, and that is okay. Better opportunities are on the horizon. Better things will come along. You don't have to say yes to everything because you're burning yourself out. You're not helping yourself. It's hurting you more than it's helping you because you're 9 chances out of 10, you're uncomfortable. You don't want to do it. And I'm not talking about, let me make this clear. I'm not talking about saying no to things because you have a lazy mentality. That's different. You cannot be out here just saying no simply because you don't feel like doing things. Like, if you never feel like doing anything, how are you ever going to succeed? Let's not be lazy in the way that we think. Let's not be lazy in the way that we live life. You know what I mean? Because some people just don't do anything and they always say no. Like, if you're somebody that has a lot on your plate and you have a lot going on, then yeah, it's okay to say no because you have like a million things to do. There's nothing wrong with you turning down one or five. I don't care because you have a lot to do. But if you don't have not one thing to do and you're not dealing with something mentally, you're not going through a mental struggle or something, you're just simply, you don't want to do it just because, come on. Like, we really got to take into consideration how neglectful that is for you as a person. You're not taking care of yourself. That's not practicing self care because you can't possibly grow if you never give yourself the opportunity to do so.
I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
It's one thing if you're afraid. There we go. Now we need to open up that conversation and let that person know, even if it feels silly. Hey, I'm afraid of this. I don't know how I want to approach this. You know what I mean? This does give me some form of anxiety. I really do want to take this opportunity, but I'm just a bit fearful. And then maybe they can reassure you, okay, well, these are the steps that we can take to make you feel better about it. And then there we go. God steps in and then you start to feel better. But if you just simply say no because of fear, you're never going to live life the way you're supposed to. You know what I mean? You're never going to do what you're supposed to do. Like, you're here to do so many different things. Like, you can't just say no to everything. But be reasonable with it, of course. And when it makes sense, yeah, you can use that power, but don't abuse the power is what I'm saying. Learn to use it but not abuse it, because like I said, some people will take that and be like, oh well, from this day on, I'm gonna say no to everything just because I don't feel like it. Okay, I mean, that's only hurting you in the future. That's not hurting anybody else but you. Especially if you're doing that as a tactic to get back at everybody, that's not hurting them because they're gonna find somebody else to do it. You know what I mean? Or they're gonna help themselves. You're gonna be the one that's looking like, oh well, I thought no, no, because like we're making moves. 2021. A lot of people are not sitting around like that. You know what I mean? Like, we're really trying to get things done. So trust me, saying yes within reason is gonna help you more than it hurts you. So all that saying no every day to everything, that ain't gonna do it. So I'll give you these levels to work with. Anything regarding your mental health, you can say no. Anything that doesn't make your mental health feel right, okay. If you have too much on your plate, okay, it's okay to say no. You know what I mean? Like, within those grounds, it's safe. You know. Even in fear, I still think you should just express that, before you say no. Just express how you feel before you say no, and then you can determine if you want to say yes or no. How about that? Just express where you're at with it, express the feelings that you're getting from the situation, and then, really talk with the person about it, or the people, whoever, the group, or whatever the case may be. And then, you guys can come to some sort of mutual consensus of if you should take it or if you should decline it. You know what I mean? That can help too. You don't always have to make the decision by yourself. But yes. So, and understand that it's not healthy to always try to keep the peace with everyone or to play it safe and go along with what other people want and their opinions because you're trying to honor them versus honoring yourself. That is extremely unhealthy, because growing up, I used to think that when you try to keep the peace, like, or when you do things for people, it's because you're showing respect for them. That's how I grew up, with that system of believing that, all right, I'm gonna do this because I respect this person and it's gonna help them. And you know what I mean? That's just how I show my respect and how I show love to people, is I do things for them. I'm a care taker, I guess you could say. I'm a giver. I like to take care of everybody. So that's just how I do. I don't know. But with that, you have to be careful because a lot of people take that and they run with it, like I said. So you really have to make sure that you're doing that reasonably. You can't just be out here doing that with everybody because everybody doesn't deserve that kind of energy. Everybody doesn't know how to handle that kind of energy, because maybe they're not they don't have the best intentions, you know what I mean? Or maybe they don't respect you like that. So you respecting them doesn't really mean much, you know what I mean? So you just have to be careful. You really have to be careful. And I don't necessarily think doing good deeds for people every single time should be simply showing respect alone. You know what I mean? I don't think that you should equate that to that so that you feel obligated to do it. Like, don't put that in your mind if it's going to make you feel obligated to do something. You know what I mean? Look at it as, okay, a way of showing love. If you want to, cool. If you don't want to, fine. Either way, you know? So understand, but like I said, it's not healthy to try to keep the peace all the time. Um and I understand that there are certain fears that come with this. I kind of addressed that a little bit ago. The fears that come with, not or speaking up. For instance, criticism. You don't want to be criticized for what you're about to say or how you feel. You don't want them to judge you. I get that. Or rejection. You don't want them to turn you away. You don't want them to stop talking to you or abandon you, whatever. Abandonment. You don't want them to leave. You don't want them to that dynamic to change. You don't want a punishment behind it. You know what I mean? And I get that. But at the same time, you can't look at everything from such a negative perspective, because all of these factors are negative. None of this is positive. Criticism is negative. Constructive criticism is positive. Rejection is negative. Abandonment is definitely negative. Punishment is for sure negative. So there's not one thing that's perceived to be positive from speaking up in this instance. So of course, I wouldn't blame you for not wanting to speak up, because look at how your perception is with that. Criticism, rejection, abandonment, punishment. Does that sound appealing to speak up? Of course not. Because it doesn't give you a positive foundation to work from. It's instantly telling you you're gonna get bad results if you do this. That's not a good thing. That's not a good sign. It's not giving you good signals, letting you know, hey, you could actually get constructive criticism if you speak up, or you could actually be accepted more if you speak up, or they could actually cling to you more and be there for you. Your dynamic could be stronger. You can have a stronger foundation together, or things could actually work in your favor and you could get blessings from speaking up. Why don't you equate it to those things instead of the opposite? You know?
I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
It's all in the mindset. It's all in how you perceive things to be. And I promise that most of the time when you perceive things to be so bad, they're actually not. You know what I mean? most of the time they actually turned out really good. Like there were a lot of times when I spoke up and I didn't feel comfortable, but I knew I had to, and it actually helped. It gave me a lot of relief. The person understood where I was coming from. We were able to get through a lot of things, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like they totally understood that, and they took it so well. And they were like, "Yeah, I don't know why you didn't say anything sooner." And I'm like, "Oh wow, I don't know either, but it's okay. I did, so it's fine." You know what I mean? So just you never know. All I can tell you is trial beats a failure any day. I'm not going to say that that's going to be the reaction every time. I would just say that that person was able to understand and they were willing to listen and hear me out, and they cared about whatever I was telling them, and that was that. But everybody's not that way. So, but I don't want you to jump to the criticism, the rejection, abandonment, punishment either. You know what I mean? Like don't do that, but just be safe. You'll know the kind of person that you're dealing with based on your dynamic. You'll know if they are going to react negatively or positively based off of your overall conversation. Like, do you all have good interactions for the most part? How do they perceive things when you don't agree with them? Test it out a little bit. Try to see if you don't agree with them, what happens. Kind of test the waters a little bit. Like if you don't agree on certain things, see where they take that. And if they lash out because you don't agree with them, then okay, then you have to work in how to express what's going on with you a little bit more. You know what I mean? You have to be a bit more strategic, because with people like that, I call those people closed-minded beings, people who do not open themselves up to other people's perspectives and are very judgmental. Those people need a little bit more massaging in that area. You know what I mean? They need a little bit more warming up before you can fully open up to them like that. You have to do a little bit at a time. Like I said, take those baby steps with those types of people, so that you don't have a volcano explosion. You don't want an explosion, you want a conversation. You're not trying to have an argument, you want to have a conversation. It doesn't mean you have to agree. You can agree to disagree, but you just don't want an argument. That's not something you're after. So if you're not careful with the way that you talk to that person or the way you approach it, that can give you the argument, that you're not looking for. So it's all about how you go at these things. There's a way to do everything. But ask yourself, good morning, good morning. What holds you back? And here are some reasons why you might feel that way. Like I said, respect. You might feel like doing what you're told or doing things for people shows respect, like I had said. Emotion. Sometimes you don't feel right speaking out or speaking up because you're very emotional and you don't want your emotions to spill over. And it's very hard for you to open up without being, too vulnerable or whatever the case may be. Okay, then you got to work with that. You got to learn to find a balance with that. You got to control your emotions. We talked about that before. Learn to control your emotions, because expressing yourself and being emotional, it's not as bad as you would think. If you got to be a bit emotional while you're expressing yourself, anybody that knows me, they'll tell you, if I really care about you and I express something that I really care about to you, because I really care about you, 9 chances out of 10, I might cry because it's that meaningful to me. And I don't mean to. It's just I get so worked up because I want my emotions to be felt. Like I want the person to understand that I mean well and I don't want to hurt anybody. So I might get a little teared up, but that's okay. But I calm down eventually. It's just in the moment I'm so serious about it that my emotions get the best of me. But it's okay, because I still get it across. It takes a little bit of time. But, there's nothing wrong with that. So trust me, I'm still working on that too. But if you could hold back the tears and all that, hold it back, But if it comes out, okay, so what? Just let it flow. It's healthy. Let it out. Just, make sure you communicate what you got to say. Get whatever you got to say out. As long as you get it out, whatever. You can, save all that for later. Just let them know what they need to know, and communicate. That's all you got to do. It doesn't have to be so hard. Life is only hard if we make it that way.
I'm getting blown now.